on Frank Luntz on his News Nation program last night, and I gotta play this audio. You need to know I do like Frank Luntz. I think he generally has a good sense of things, but sometimes I think Frank can be swept up in the moment, and this may be one of those times.
They're going crazy right now, and they're going crazy because they don't see leadership in their own party. And I want to emphasize what Cory Booker did over the last 24 hours may have changed the course of political history. I watched a lot of it. I listened to words. I listened to phrases, how he presents himself. Did he criticize Donald Trump? Of course he did. But he struck the kind of tone that grassroots Democrats are looking for. He gave them a reason to fight. He gave them a reason to stand up and say, this is my country too. Of course, every Republican watching will say, this is nonsense. But he's not speaking just to Republicans. He's speaking to Americans. And what I saw over the last 25 hours absolutely blew me away. And just as you sometimes make projections or predictions, I'm going to do one right here. That speech puts Cory Booker as one of the leaders for the Democratic Party, 2028, and I'll go even further. If you ask Democratic senators right now, would they rather have lead them over the next 3 years? They would choose Cory Booker over Chuck Schumer. That's how significant today was.
Did any of you know Cory Booker was speaking in the Senate? It wasn't a filibuster, by the way. They're calling it a filibuster. But, Ted Cruz did a 21-hour floor speech in the United States Senate in 2013, and every major media outlet very helpfully pointed out it's not technically a filibuster. He wasn't blocking the Senate from taking action. Cory Booker was not actually blocking the Senate from taking action. Strom Thurmond, the last Democrat to hold the filibuster record, filibuster the Civil Rights Act. Thurmond later became a Republican, but for the record, Strom Thurmond was a Democrat when he filibustered the Civil Rights Act. So Democrats now hold the longest and second longest speeches in the United States Senate. Cory Booker replacing Strom Thurmond's, but Strom Thurmond's filibuster to block the Civil Rights Act actually blocked a vote on the Civil Rights Act. Strom Thurmond did that. Cory Booker didn't block anything. You may be excited in the moment that Cory Booker spoke, but it was performance, and that kind of gets to the point here is Democrats just want performance. They want to see that someone's got to fight. This very much reminds me of 2015 when Donald Trump was running for president. And what did people say about Trump as he ramped up his campaign? He fights. And Republicans felt like no one was standing up to Barack Obama and that Donald Trump was going to fight, and he fights. He had the birth certificate moment where he forced Barack Obama to release his birth certificate to show that he actually was who he claimed to be. He fights. He fights. But he didn't actually fight. He spoke. And in speaking, he didn't actually accomplish anything, which is kind of wild to me that we are in a situation here where the Democrats, they're kind of leaderless. They're kind of rudderless, frankly. In fact, they're beginning to throw Barack Obama under the bus. Jonathan Allen is one of those reporters who has another little tell-all coming out of the campaign. He was on MSNBC.
President Obama absolutely did not think that Joe Biden should continue, according to our sources close to President Obama. And he also didn't want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden. He didn't think that she was the best choice for Democrats. And he worked really behind the scenes for a long time to try to have a mini primary or an open convention or mini primary leading to an open convention. Did not have faith in her ability to win the election. So, and as it turned out, she didn't win, but he was really working against her. In one moment, he had set up a phone call with Congressman Clyburn from South Carolina on the day that Joe Biden handed off the baton to Kamala Harris. And Obama had set up a call with Clyburn for like 5:30 that afternoon. And Clyburn thought to himself, this guy's going to try to rope me into the open convention thing. I better get my endorsement of Harris out there fast so that this is a short conversation. So that's, and when Harris talked to Obama on the day that Biden handed off to her.
You got that? Obama tried to sabotage Harris, and in fact might have sabotaged Harris. Now, Alan also has this revelation that Kamala Harris had to beg Joe Biden for his endorsement. Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and Barack Obama all believed that there should be an open primary process, that it shouldn't go to Kamala Harris. Behind the scenes, Democrats actually believed Harris was too weak, that she wouldn't win, and they were right. Obama was right on Harris. But it's just kind of funny now to watch the situation here where every single person on the Democratic side is now furious with Obama, suggesting he was undermining Harris. Kind of was, if we're honest about it. This is kind of funny to watch. But this gets back to Cory Booker. What did Frank Luntz say? That the Democratic senators, many of them privately believe that Cory Booker would be a better leader for the Democrats than Chuck Schumer right now. On the House side, they all kind of like Hakeem Jeffries. And they still got Nancy Pelosi behind the scenes, but Chuck Schumer is no Harry Reid. The Democrats thought Harry Reid was way more ruthless than Chuck Schumer is. And behind the scenes, a lot of Republicans actually like Chuck Schumer. They think they may disagree with him on stuff, but they think he's a fun guy to have conversations with. Straight shooter. But what do the Democrats actually want? They want to stop Donald Trump. They can't stop Donald Trump because they don't control anything. And the Republicans are going to do to them what they did to the Republicans. They're going to begin to be railroaded by the Republicans through reconciliation. You know the way the Democrats could stop the GOP? They could ally with the GOP and rein in the president's powers. Donald Trump has said he's okay if Congress reins in his powers. He thinks that maybe the president has too much power, but the Republicans aren't reining it in. The Democrats could rein in President Trump on tariffs. You know, what's his name? So Tim Kaine from Virginia has a resolution of the Senate. It's going to pass upending Donald Trump's tariffs on Canada. Probably not going to pass the House of Representatives, but it's going to pass the Senate. Got enough Senate Republicans willing to rein in those tariffs. Notice, though, that Democrats aren't patting him on the back. He's doing something constructive. Cory Booker gave a speech. He gave a very long speech, and the Democrats are praising him. Meanwhile, Tim Kaine is able to get enough Republicans to go along with him to pass a resolution in the United States Senate to end the Trump policy on Canadian tariffs. And nobody seems to care. It's because he's building a bipartisan coalition to get something done. And the Democrats, God forbid, you build a bipartisan coalition to get something done. They just want someone to engage in performance. They want theater. The reality is this. Donald Trump is the ringmaster of this circus. And all these people are showing themselves to be the clowns. Cory Booker accomplished nothing. The media can herald it as some sort of filibuster record, that it was just some strident filibuster. They can use the term filibuster. It wasn't actually a filibuster. It wasn't. Why was it not a filibuster? Because it did not obstruct the Senate. It didn't obstruct the business of the Senate. It did not block something from being passed by the Senate the way Strom Thurmond did. It was a speech. It was like Ted Cruz's speech in 2013. And when Ted Cruz spoke in 2013, the media said, well, it wasn't actually a filibuster. It was just a very long speech. Same thing applies with Cory Booker, but the media, of course, is part of the Democratic Party. They're like, Cory Booker, he's our leader. Cory Booker, he did such a good job. Cory Booker, he filibustered. We should all be like Cory Booker. We love Cory Booker. Cory Booker, it was his Spartacus moment yet again, and he absolutely fell on his face. doing absolutely nothing. But the Democrats, they love it. And that's the point. It doesn't matter that I don't like it. It doesn't matter that you don't like it. It doesn't matter that you and I recognize it as performance art and nothing else. The Democrats are the people who buy artworks that are toilet seats hanging on the wall for $10 billion, claiming that it's some sort of priceless work of art. Cory Booker stood in the United States Senate floor and he talked for 25 hours, accomplishing nothing, doing nothing other than managing to stand there that long without peeing his pants. And the Democrats have decided that is the measure of success for the Democratic Party, which actually, instead of interpreting it as the Democrats have found a leader, should be interpreted as this is how far the Democratic Party has fallen, that a man can stand for 25 hours without peeing his pants while talking and accomplish nothing in the process, and that's now the leader of the party. That tells you everything you need to know about just how bad off the Democratic Party is. But we have Wisconsin. You don't even have Wisconsin, really. And you didn't get Florida. Oh, Democrats, you will find your way forward. The party in power tends to have everybody turn on it. And I will tell you, Republicans in Washington, D.C. and at the state level, I talk to people in all the states, talk to lots of members of Congress. They are beside themselves, convinced that they are going to be wiped out in the midterms already. I'm here in Georgia. I've already got Georgia Republicans telling me they think the Democrats could do very well next year in Georgia because of Donald Trump. They're already there. They're already in there. And Democrats have that working in their favor. The psychology of Republican loserdom works in the Democrats' favor. But what doesn't actually work is a speech that actually accomplishes nothing except playing to the vanities of the Democratic Party, which is all Cory Booker did. There was no filibuster. It was just a speech, a very long speech. He didn't pee his pants. But you know what? Considering the record from the Democrats lately, that actually is an accomplishment.